Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. Great to be back. So glad to be back. And I'm streaming live from outside now. It's like a patio here at the Asper Jewish Community Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So I'm sorry I have a hand on my head, but the wind is blowing my kippah away. So I have to improvise. I have a I have a hat in my car, but it's too far. So I wouldn't. When I discovered that this was too windy, it was too late to go get my hat and come back. But anyway, what can I do? I'll do my best to keep my kippah in place. But if I disappear for a second, it's probably because I'm running after my kippah. So welcome everyone. Welcome Mark. Welcome Brenda. Is David around? Let me know in the chat if there is anybody else. Please say hello. Please say hello. So, yeah, for now we are streaming here from the Asper Jewish Community Campus. Once we are back into a new building, hi David, welcome. Once we are going back to our new building, we might change the venue. We'll see. We'll start surveying people from our congregation to see if it's better to encourage in-person participation as well. Yeah, we'll see. Let me tell you as an anecdote here. Before the pandemic, we used to have Torah L'chaim on Saturdays after Kiddush. It used to be very popular. We used to have constantly around 15 people coming in person. And then we have to, basically everything was changed. When we had to close the building, we couldn't get in person anymore. And we realized that noontime was way better for people working from home, right? They could make a break on their workload, workday, and attend the class. But now that everything is back to normal, now that we are going back to the building, I don't know. Let me know if you think that the Saturday after Kiddush is still a good time, or maybe noon is a good time. I don't know. Let us know. I'm very curious. So, again, welcome. We are going to be studying today about Parsha Tetzei and start with all the laws about war prisoners. It's very interesting, very contemporary, I will say, right? The way we treat the prisoners in a war. And you will see many stories like this in the Bible, and you've probably heard stories when you study history, right? When we study history, we learn a lot about the way prisoners were treated in different cultures. So, if you wanna share your experience, please let me know in the chat, because if history is your passion and you know about how different people used to treat prisoners, I'm very curious. I would like to know what you know about it. But in Judaism, we have a very clear guidance, and a big part of that used to be how to deal with female prisoners, which it was very interesting because it was very common, and this is one of the most famous stories that we probably remember, especially how it relates to the Jewish people, and how it was very common to commit to rape female prisoners during a battle, right? We saw that even now, right now, with the October 7th, was this terrible thing that happened. But back in the day, it used to be very common. But from the get-go, in Judaism, we are not allowed to do that. And I think it's fascinating, and it shows me how in many different aspects, the Torah was a step ahead, ethically speaking, from many of the practices of the time. And to the point, there is a whole section in the Torah when we are given clear guidelines of what to do. And it goes, the Parsha goes even further, because it says, forget about raping. What if you really like a woman? Can you marry her? Right? Uh, can it become your concubine, maybe? Or, well, even for that, even for that, there are guidelines. There are guidelines. But I wanted to do today is kind of combine this concept of taking prisoners during a war with the fact that we are also during the month of Elul, which is the last month of the Jewish calendar. And why is this so important? Because the month of Elul is a preparation for the high holidays. And the rabbis say that the fact that we read this parsha at the beginning of the month of Elul, because it happens every year, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. And they believe that all this theme of going to war against the enemy is a big metaphor of us fighting our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclinations. And they were saying that even for that, when we have a struggle, when we are at war with your evil inclination, even then we have rules of what we should do, and it all comes from this week's parsha in the hope that we can have a better preparation for the high holidays. I thought it was a fascinating topic, the way it's presented. It's fascinating. So, without further delay, I want to present to you the material that I have for you. If you have any comments, again, let me know, because I see this, the chat is very quiet right now, and I always like to know what you guys are thinking. Hello, Roberto Franco. Good afternoon to you too. Welcome. Welcome to the class. So, let me bring this. There you go. There you go. Okay. So, let's go to the beginning of this week's parsha. And it says, כי תצא למלחמה על אויביך, ונתנו אדוני אלוהיך בידיך, ושיבית שיביו. Okay? Let's go by parts. This says, I know it's a short verse, but it's packed with meaning that I want to share with you. When you take the field against your enemy, or when you go, כי תצא means when you go out, okay? When you go out against your enemy, and your God delivers them into your power, and you take some of them captives. Fascinating. כי תצא למלחמה על אויביך, when you go out and fight your enemy, then God is going to deliver them to you. So this is, from the get-go, is the concept that is present in every time that the Jewish people went to war, the concept of partnership with God, in the sense that we have to be sure that our intentions are in tune with God's intentions. And it's not the other way around. Because most of the times we, first we decide the battles that we're going to have, and then we ask for God's help. But in this case, it's talking about us fighting God's battles. And in that case, God is going to help us succeed. And remember that we are talking about here, we are reading this as a metaphor of us fighting our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, which is the goal that we have. Okay? But now, and again, because we are talking about the evil inclination, and it says, God will deliver them to you, will deliver the evil inclination to you, and you will take it captive. And you know why this is so important? Because it does not say, and when you take the evil inclination and you kill it. Have you noticed that? It says you have to take it captive. And it's a fascinating thing, and you will see in a minute why it's so fascinating. Let me go to the next verse, because this continues, and it says, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire her, and will take her into your household as your wife. So, let's back to our metaphor here, right? What does it mean when you take prisoner your evil inclination and you see something beautiful in it, to the point that now you want to get married or attached to it? This is such a beautiful metaphor, such a beautiful metaphor. So if you have any comments of what you think the Torah is implying here, or what is the metaphor here, let me know in the chat, because it's extremely important in our preparation for the high holidays to understand this concept. Okay? Let me know. I will give you a minute, and meanwhile I will show you the next verse. This is what Rashi says here. So you see, the Torah speaks about the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. It's not me that is, I didn't come out with this concept that those verses are a metaphor about the evil inclination. Rashi was the one who noticed that. Okay, I'm just repeating what Rashi says. So what do you think? What do you think about those two verses? Let me know. Okay. While you think, let me present to you a few comments that the rabbis have about this. Number one, let's read this from Hasidic masters. Okay, beautiful comment. It says, the Hebrew phrase "al oyevecha," on your enemies, can also be understood in the literal sense of on top of your enemies. In every battle, the way to achieve victory is to gain the higher ground. We must never stoop to the level of evil to fight it on its own terms. In the words of our sages, one who wrestles with a filthy person becomes dirty as well. Rather, we should rise above it, affirming our belief that there is no true existence other than God, and that nothing contrary to His goodness and truth has any real power. When our going to war is in a manner of on your enemies, we are guaranteed that God shall deliver them into your hands. So, what it's saying here is that while there is no universal way or formula on how you do things, it has to be in an ethical way. Okay, that's what these rabbis are implying here. But they're also implying that when you said, when it's talking about the higher ground, is that we should always look for the best way of doing it. Let's see, David Grossman, what you said here. Would taking a woman prisoner as wife constitute marrying someone outside Judaism? Okay, if you take it literally, yes. Now you're talking about outside the metaphor, right? But fair enough. Yes, there are many cases. Back in the day, in biblical times, basically you could get any woman you want, marry her, and she becomes Jewish. You will say in this day, okay, she will probably take into the mikvah before marriage, but that's it. Basically, the woman will adopt whatever faith the man, the husband, will have. And I believe probably that worked the other way around as well. Okay? That would be the other way around as well. Especially in the land of Israel. I don't want to take a... I'll try to stay focused here with this topic, but guys, that I teach the conversion classes. We call it Choosing Judaism every year. There is one class that I talk specifically, the whole class, about conversion to Judaism. And what you have to know is the way we understand conversion in these days was not at all the way people used to convert to Judaism back in the day. All you had to do in the past was to move to the land of Israel and start living the way the Israelis were living and worshiping the way they were worshiping, and basically that was your way into Judaism. For a man, it was more complicated because you still have to circumcise, and then when you go and circumcise, there is always a chance for somebody to, to ask you why you want to convert, etc. But for a woman, it was extremely easy. Go read the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth, where she was a Moabite. She comes with Naomi to the land of Israel, and she just married Boaz. There was no conversion, and she became a Jew, and she was the great grandmother of King David. So it was extremely common in those days, especially for women. In these days, a little bit of that tradition still exists. And so basically, you know that we have different ways to express our Judaism. You could be Ashkenazi, Sephardic, Moroccan, and so forth. And what happened with an Ashkenazi man marries a Moroccan woman, or vice versa? The tradition is the woman starts following the observance and the tradition of the husband. Okay, it's coming from those days. So yeah, when you were in the battle and you were married a woman that was from another nation, she becomes a Jewish by marriage. She becomes a Jewish by marriage. Nothing, it's that simple. Mark Phillips, what you said, in any battle, the army which has the higher ground has the advantage. So I understand that higher ground to be God, guided by God in our actions. Basically it's always to, in any situation, when you are in a battle scenario, you always behave in an ethical way. So, for example, and I will give you a quick example, that if when you see what happened on October 7, reacting in the same way will imply that now the Israeli army will go and start raping Palestinians, which makes no sense. That would be fighting at the same level. You use the same tactics, right? But you always try, or you have to try to always take a more ethical approach. The same goes with everything that goes to your own life. But now, there are different levels about that. And I will give you just a quick one because I was thinking about that more than others. Sometimes we deal with thoughts, right? And this is something a rabbi taught me once. When you deal with thoughts, what is a higher ground from thoughts? Higher ground for thoughts is voice and sound. So that's why when we pray in Judaism, even if it's a silent prayer, you say it with a little volume, because even though you may have thoughts, but you use your voice to pray to God and to tell yourself what is right and what is not. You don't fight thoughts with thoughts, you fight thoughts with words, with audible words. And that's one way to take in the higher ground in that specific scenario. But that applies to many different aspects in many different ways. Okay? So, yeah. Let's see. Egyptians and Edomites had to be third generation in Israel to be Jewish according to this week's Parsha. Why the 3-generation wait? It happened with it's because the bad influences, because there were still a bad blood against Israel and vice versa. So to avoid any kind of conflict, because the difference is there were like Moabites, for example, and Moabites, they were banned for life. There was no way for a Moabite to become Jewish, because the Torah implies that it was something intrinsically bad about them. It was on their DNA to be immoral. And I don't know how to explain that, but I'm just repeating here, right? But it was implied that they were, genetically bad. But there was nothing against Egyptian and Edomites. It's not that they were bad, which means is that there was a time where they had a bad leader, let's say about Pharaoh, right, that contaminated the whole generation. And, and also from the Israeli side, from the people of Israel side, there was this animosity against them for everything that the Egyptians said to them. And then that probably passed to the next generation because, the father told the son, and then the grandfather told the grandson. But they said after 3 generations, would say, okay, guys, there is nothing wrong with them. They are good people. They had a bad leader. We had a problem with them. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now, the Moabite was different. And it becomes even more complicated because Ruth was a Moabite. How is it possible that Ruth the Moabite became Jewish? And then the rabbi said, well, because the prohibition was against the Moabite, and the Moabite as males, not against the Moabitess. Is that the word? You add the S at the end to go from male to female. Am I right? Right, you have lion and lioness, Moabite, Moabitess. So the rabbis explained that restriction was against the Moabite as in the males of the Moabites and not in the females. But I believe the same goes to the Egyptians, by the way, and the Edomites. And it's all coming from this old belief that a woman becomes a possession of the husband, and then the husband decides what the woman will do or not. Okay? Hey, again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you the way it used to be. It's not like that anymore. But that's what the Torah says. So in this specific case, and these 2 verses that I read at the beginning, all the restrictions that not to do it, not to be at the same level of our enemies. Yes, it's talking about not to get tempted by all the other cultures around us. Okay, that they will have different ideas on how things should be done. We have our own way of doing it, and that's why it's so interesting that it says, then you will take the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination of, as a prisoner, right? But once you have it under your control, they say, well, what if you start actually all of a sudden being tempted and you want to marry it, so to speak, the evil inclination, and it used to be your enemy, and now you are allowing certain aspects to become part of your life, and then you're defeating the purpose. That's why the Torah, because the Torah could have just said, they take it prisoner, but say, wait. But now you actually like what you see, and you want to marry that. Think about it for a minute. Meanwhile, I'm going to read Mark's new comment. In battling the Yetzer Hara, the evil in your life, perhaps temptation, having that higher ground, being encamped on a slope over your evil desire below you, the base, you have a momentum that may not or ever with the evil inclination, but will again give you the extra momentum to hold it captive. Whew! That's deep. I will show you. I won't even show it completely. Too bad. But yes. But I will say that even the intention to approach any kind of changes in your life, changes for the better, right? or things that you believe are for the better, even if the intention of approaching that from an ethical point of view, because we believe that is the right way, without taking shortcuts, right? Even if you have the intention to do that, it's a great thing. Most people will never think about it, will never even stop to think about it. But if you stop and think about it, it's an amazing thing. Just like that. Yeah. I've seen many people that they're not happy with the kind of life they live. God, I believe it happens to all of us. We all think that there are places that we could do better. We can do better in our families, in our business, or whatever. But I've seen this, especially on what is related to the business, that people sometimes, in order to do better, they sometimes don't take ethical decisions. They don't. They do what other people do without thinking that that's not the Jewish way of doing it. That's my experience, at least. And that's why this is a good reminder, all those verses before the high holidays, when we are thinking about, or we should be engaging and thinking about the future of our lives. Let's continue. Okay. Now, we go back to the metaphor. It says, also, from one's spiritual enemies, one must capture captives. From the spiritual enemies, anything negative in man or in the world can be exploited for the good if one can derive a lesson from it in the service of the Creator. And this is something that sometimes we have to say it. Sometimes we have to say it when we study Judaism. And it is that we don't really believe in killing everything that is considered evil, but what we believe is to take control of it. It's not the same. It's not the same. That's why we still need the two inclinations, the evil inclination and the good inclination. It's not that the goal in life is to destroy it and to obliterate and to kill the evil inclination, but the goal in life is to control it and never letting the evil inclination taking control of your life. Okay? So that's why the rabbi said that the verse says, God is going to put the enemy on your hand. Why is this on your hand? Because it's the enemy on your hand and not you in the enemy's hand. So it's a very clear commandment here. The enemy has to be on your hand and not the other way around. So when you have it in your hand, it's under your control, and now you can use it to your benefit. In fact, the rabbi said when they talk about the evil inclination and the good inclination and why they're both necessary, they were saying that without the evil inclination, nobody will get out of bed in the morning, nobody will start a business, nobody will get married, because you have no impulses, no urges. Urges are not bad, they have to be controlled. Well, if you have, for example, the urge to earn money, right? It happened to all of us. It's not that you have to kill that, you have to channel that into something positive. So what you do, you work into something that it will benefit other people, right? And you get paid in the process. You open a business, but at the same time you are employing other people and so forth. And the same thing with our desire for sex. We start a family, and it's something wonderful, creating a family. You have children, and so forth. It happened with all urges that we have. It's not about destroying the urges, it's about controlling the urges. And we are in control of them, because otherwise they control us. Is that clear? If we don't control our urges will control us. It's like that. Just like that. Any comments? I'm curious here to read your comments. Okay, so let's continue with the next text. Now, listen to this. This is a perfect example of what it means to take your enemy or the evil inclination on your hand, right? To control it, to use it to your favor. Listen to this. I learned 7 things from the thieves. You know, when you think a thief, it's a thief. What could be good about a thief? It's a bad thing, except that what he does, he keeps to himself. It's a good thing. Number 2, he's willing to take risks to attain his goal. He does not distinguish between major and minor things, but takes equally exacting care of each and every detail. Number 4, he invests great effort in what he does. Number 5, he is swift. Number 6, he is always optimistic. Number 7, if at first he fails, he's back time and again for another try. So this is also about learning to find something positive in everything. Even things that sometimes we think is a disadvantage, right? And that may bring feelings of sadness and depression. But if you learn to take control of it, hey, maybe it's your superpower. Who knows? It's all about the attitude that we take in life. Yeah. Have you ever thought about this? About the thieves? This Rabbi Susha of Anipoli, or Anipoli, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's very famous, and he had lots of beautiful things like this. He was able to explain difficult things with everyday words or everyday stories. That's why he was so popular among his people. Very interesting guy. Next. Now, Proverbs will say, "For by strategy you wage war, and victory comes with much planning." Now, what the rabbis say about this verse from Proverbs is that sometimes we think that, well, this very careful strategy planning only applies to real war against nations. Right? Sure. Sometimes these wars involve a great deal of planning. But what he's saying, what the Proverbs is saying here, is that whenever we are planning changes for our lives, and again, you have to remember that I want to talk to you about this right now because we are during the month of Elul. This is our preparation for the high holidays, guys. Okay? This is the time when we start thinking about everything that we want to change or everything we want to keep. Because sometimes keeping something that you achieved could be as difficult as to change something that you want to modify, right? So it's both. As you should be engaging on what to keep and what to change, you have to realize that without strategy and planning, it's difficult to do anything. How true is this? And let me give you a quick example, because I talk to people sometimes as a rabbi, right, that they are struggling with substance abuse or alcohol, for example, right, and they tell me their stories and how they overcame alcoholism, how they do it, or how they stay sober. And you will be in shock or how many changes or how many things these people have to do in their lives to achieve their goal. It comes for everything from changing things at home, from revisiting friendships, right, and to start figuring out who are the people around you that they are influencing you every day. What you read, what you watch, and everything has an impact. So if they want to stay sober, they have to come out with a strategy, and then not, a short-term strategy, mid-term strategy, and long-term strategy to stay at that place or to achieve the goal. And that is just one example. And because we believe, well, Rabbi, that is about alcohol abuse, but there are many other things that we should take it as seriously as alcohol abuse. For example, the way you think about yourself, right? People that have no self-love, and they beat, psychologically, I'm talking psychologically, they beat themselves up every day. And they know that it's bad, but it's okay, it's going to get better. Well, let me tell you something. No, if you don't come with a strategy. Everything every serious change that you plan for your life should come accompanied by strategy and planning. At least that's my experience, because otherwise it's short term. You cannot maintain it. It's like that. And when I read this, that is coming from Proverbs, something that I was reading so long ago, and how true this is in these days, is mind blowing. It is. Any comments from the chat? I want to know what you think. Have you ever got involved in planning, right, to make a change in your life? It's because I did. Sometimes when you want to change something, you have to plan to be sure you can sustain it. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Let's continue. Now, let's go to the concept. Now we understand the concept of Yetzer Hara, the concept that we don't supposed to kill the Yetzer Hara, but you have to take control of it, and the concept that in order to take control of it, you have to plan, okay? Or at least if you want to keep it like that as you move forward, we have to understand the concept of repentance, the concept that you can always return to your true self. Let's put it this way. The concept of return. David Grossman, he said, Hashem loves when we make plans, they say. Okay. I like to think it more that Hashem smiles with us. But it's difficult to change. That's why sometimes we say that Hashem laughs at our attempts to plan. And it's because how easy we give up. We should stay strong. So the concept of Teshuvah, you see here in the book of Hosea or Hosea, Hebrew, it's talking about the concept of Teshuvah. Let me read it first, and then I will explain something that it took me a while to understand. It says, Shuva Israel ad Adonai Elohecha ki chashalta ba'avonecha. Return, O Israel, unto the Lord your God, for you have stumbled in your transgression. So, in other words, what implies here is that if he says return in it means that we were in a different place before, right? It's like, many of you, I know that, for example, Brenda, right? Or the Grossmans, from Winnipeg. When you come back to Winnipeg, you are returning. You were here before, you are in Texas now, but then when you come back, and if I said return, you're coming back to a place that it was yours before. Okay? So when it says Shuva Israel ad Adonai, return, O Israel, into the Lord, it implies that we were there before. We took distance. We took distance from God every time we stumble in transgression. Every time we do something bad, it's not that God is taking distance from us, we are taking distance from God. And we reach to a point where we are not happy where we are anymore, and God is saying, return to me. Just return. Come back. In the same way that there are many stories about the metaphor of coming back home after our failures, right? And we are afraid of what our parents are going to say. Our parents are so happy that we come back, right? Because our parents never stop loving their children. So this is the same. Brenda, you said, David laughs at me with all my planning. I love having a plan for everything in my life. Having a plan helps me have hope. Yeah, having a plan is very interesting. Mark, you say, in making a decisive change in one's life, aside from doing all the things you mentioned, reevaluating friendship, etc., what part does God play in guiding, leading in Judaism? It seems that the Psalms repeatedly acknowledge the eternal presence in the midst of whatever we are going through. In other words, we perhaps cannot make these changes for good in your life without God. Yeah, very interesting. And the concept of change in Judaism comes from the realization that we are doing something that is not what God intended for our lives. Okay? In other words, when you feel that you're doing something wrong, God agrees with you. In the sense that the more we understand what God wants from our lives, then when you feel that you're doing something wrong, God is with you in that assessment. And then when you plan the changes, God is with you planning it, because that is God's will for you to undertake that planning. That's my quick nutshell theological explanation of the concept of returning and planning. Okay? And what is God in all that? What is God in all that? Sometimes returning to God is more about being in tune with everything that God always wanted for us in our lives, and we didn't pay attention, and we did it the other way. Why? Because we are stubborn. We are humans. We like to do it our way. Right? And the whole concept of teshuva is to say, well, maybe I shouldn't do it my way. Maybe I will do it God's way. How do you know what is God's way? Well, it takes a fair bit of studying, reading, reflecting, thinking, right? Praying to figure out what God wants. But I'm going to say, and let me know if you feel that I'm wrong, that for the most part, we know what is right and what is wrong, and what God wants for us. There are probably certain aspects in our life that we may be in doubt. But the way I approach it in my life is the same way that I approach an exam. Have you ever done these exams that there are multiple choices? I remember, I don't know when that changed. When I was little, I remember at school, the exams did not have multiple choices. You have to write the answer and develop it and whatever. But then at one time, I don't know why, I guess it's easier for the teacher, everything changed to the multiple choices. Did it happen to you? But even if it's not multiple choices, you have to write the full answer. Still works my reflection. Listen to this. The way I approach it is, let's say you have 50 questions, right? 50 questions. You go through the first question. Easy peasy. You mark the right answer or you write the right answer. Second question, even easier than the first. You mark the right answer, you write the right answer. Third question, darn it, you don't know the answer. You can't remember. I don't know, maybe you didn't pay attention to that unit. Maybe you didn't read that chapter from the book. But you don't know the answer or you're not sure. So when that happened, there are two different kind of students. There are some students that they will get stuck there, right? And it's only question number 3 out of 50, right? But they get stuck there until they figure out the answer. Okay? And then time is up and all you answer were 2 questions out of the 50 and you got stuck on the third. Okay? The other attitude is if you don't know, you're not sure the third question, you just move on to the 4th and to the 5th, to the 6th. And then you realize that the 23rd question is also one that you're not sure, you don't know the answer. Skip it, and you go all the way to the end. And then the exam comes back and your score is, surprise, 85. You passed, right? And for the people who got stuck on the third question and they couldn't do it, the score is a 1. They failed. So this is what happened. And I would say for most things in life, we already know what God wants. We know what God considers good and bad. Is there anybody here in this group that thinks that, drinking to death is good? We know it's bad. We know God doesn't want us to do that. So we can plan to change that fairly sure that that's what God wants. And God is with us at that moment. And many of the things that we know what is the right thing to do. Again, there may be certain things that we are not sure, but we should not get stuck there, right? Until we figure it out. Meanwhile, move on to other things that we can still change this year, right, at these high holidays, because we already know that whatever we are doing is wrong, and we should take it seriously enough to change it. At least that's my approach. I'm curious as to what you guys think about this, about that attitude in life. Not to get stuck with the things that you're not sure, because of course we get obsessed with it because we're not sure. We have to think more about it. But there are many other things that we know that we have to change, right? And we can prioritize that until maybe one day you will have all those things figured out, and then you're sure you can revisit all those things that you're not so sure. But until that time comes, let's start with the things that we can change, right? Yeah. Let's continue. The concept of return. Now, let's focus a little bit on the practicalities of the high holidays, the month of Elul, and the Jewish way of return. Okay? The rabbis established that it's a process on how we do it, especially when whatever we do is affecting other people. That is the most difficult things to change. There are many things that they are about us. Easy. You regret what you did and you plan to change. But what if in the process of all the things that we've been doing wrong, you harmed other people? So this is the plan. This is the blueprint. Maimonides said, the transgressor stops doing the transgression and removes it from his thoughts. Okay? The best as possible. The best thing you can do is, if you realize already that you did something wrong, even if you cannot repair it yet, at least stop doing it, or stop thinking about it. And if say, how can I stop thinking about it? Thoughts come whenever they come. Well, yeah, but the way they come, they can leave. Don't talk about it all the time, right? Let it go, but stop doing whatever you're doing. Number 2, then then you should resolve that you will not do it again in the future. I said, hey, it's not a guarantee that you won't do it, but at least say it out loud. Remember we said about thoughts versus words? The thought is pushing you towards a direction, but now you say it out loud, I will do whatever is in my power, so I will never do it again. And you say it out loud. You say it out loud. You also have to regret it. That's the next step. He regrets that which he did in the past. You have to be, it's like I have this thing with my son all the time. When he does something wrong, me or my wife, we call him or whatever he did. And then he says, oh, I'm sorry. And then sometimes I ask him, you're sorry for what? And he's not even sure what he did wrong. He just knows that we are upset. So he thinks that just by saying, I'm sorry, we're going to be fine and we're going to let him off a hook. No. So I said, what are you sorry for? And then he will say, well, I'm sorry that, I don't know, I didn't put my choco milk cup in the dishwasher. Now he realizes what he did wrong, right? You got the point. It's not just about saying sorry, it's about being aware of what you did wrong. Saying sorry doesn't mean anything if you're not aware of it. Next, again, listen to this word and you will see how it keeps coming back, and I hope now you can understand better why. He verbally expresses his wrongdoings to God and makes a verbal resolution for the future. So in other words, according to Jewish law, you're not allowed to think about it. You don't think to do it better. You don't think that you are sorry. You say it out loud. It's part of tshuva. According to the rabbis, if you don't go through this, rabbinically, you haven't fulfilled your obligation of doing tshuva. Okay? So verbally expresses the wrongdoings. And the last one, regarding wrongdoings against one's fellow man, one must reimburse whatever he owes him and ask the other person forgiveness. Well, once you realize what you did wrong, especially with other people, you have to try to repair it, right? Not just about I'm sorry. You have to try to find a way of how you can do it better. And you see, for us that we live in Canada, this comes back every day when we are talking about, for example, truth and reconciliation, when with our relationship with indigenous people, that it's not just about saying I'm sorry, it's about saying what else can we do to repair a relationship that it was broken after so many generations of abuses and misunderstandings. So this is a very Jewish concept, that it's not just about saying sorry, but it's about trying to do your best to restitute whatever you can in that situation. And this could be applied to many things, and relationships and wrongdoings that we did to other people. And usually the easiest way is saying, what can I do? What can I do to repair something that is broken? You tell me. I'll do my best, but what do you think I should be doing? Sometimes the conversation should start with that way, but asking, what do you think? What do you think I should do? Because that's the Jewish way. Okay, that's the Jewish way. Yeah. So I will start. I will finish with this. We are already 1 minute away from from our time limit. And about Teshuva, we have actions, and the actions will be related to either the past, the present, and the future. Right? For example, step number 1, the regret that we talk about, realize the extent of damage and feel sincere regret. It relates to what you did in the past, right? And then you also have the cessation, the immediately stop what you're doing. You know it's wrong. You still don't have a plan, long-term plan, but I still stop doing it right now. Stop. And then the confession. say it out loud. I'm sorry for what I did. God, help me. You will find your own words, okay? That relates to the present. And then to the future, here is a step for the resolution. This is the planning. This is the planning that I was talking about. Make a firm commitment not to repeat it in the future, and how you do that? By planning. Sometimes it could mean that you have to rethink your relationships. Who are your friends? Where you get the influence from? Maybe that means that you stop watching certain channels that, they are not bringing anything positive to your life. So that's the way we do it. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back. And please stay tuned for any changes that we do in the future relating to Torah L'Chaim, about venues and times, because now that we are moving back into our new building, everything is going to be changing in ways that we don't know. We don't know right now how it's going to be, but I can expect many changes in many ways, because we are finally trying to go back to the way we were before the pandemic. So exciting times for the Jewish people and exciting times for us at the Share Zedek. So I hope this will start your own process of Teshuvah before the high holidays, right? This is the month of Elul, the last month of the year, and this is the right time to start thinking what we want for our lives, okay? So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Please stay safe, and hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.